Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Howdy, folks. Welcome once again to another episode of Learn Photography with Duck. I am, once again, your host, Duck. And, actually, while I got this stuff up, I just want to remind you guys again, we're coming up very quickly on our studio lighting meetup with Milford Photo. That's coming up on the 21st. If by any chance you're the one of the people that kind of like responded to my Facebook event for that, just realize that if you want to participate, you need to sign up Milford Photo meetup page. So you go to meetup.com, Milford Photo, and register on their page. All right. So just because you see the event on my Facebook page doesn't mean that you have access to that event from there. All right. Just so you know. The one on the Milford Green coming up on the 23rd, that is an open event. Anybody can come. It'd be nice to have a head count, so if you can, sign up through the Milford Photo meetup page, or just send me a note saying that I plan on being there. So it's looking so far that we got about, I think last count was about 20 people, so it's going to be a good sized group. We're going to have a lot of fun. That particular event's a lot more fun when there is a group of people, simply because it's fun because you can compare and contrast, what you got in the camera compared to, what you pulled with the game card. So anyway, that's coming up. Now that the warm weather's coming here, if you have an interest in a particular, event, whether it's a live event, where we go and do something, or it's a workshop where, you learn something, either live or here in Zoom. If you have a suggestion, of something that you want me to present to the group, just let me know. I'm more than open for ideas. Okay. All right. That's enough for that one. All right, today is our Lightroom session, and what I wanted to do today is kind of give a little demonstration about tethered shooting. I know a few of you in the group are into tabletop photography, still life photography. I know, Lihia, you're into commercial photography. So I figure I'd go over, a little bit of how to use Lightroom tethered to a camera as a tool. But before we get into that, I just wanted to make a little note for you. If you're not familiar with f-stoppers on either Facebook or their blog, f-stoppers is a photography blog, and I got a notification this morning. They released a new article, a little post, and on it said using subject select, the AI subject select, to check whether your image has a strong enough subject. It was a pretty interesting read. Kind of gave me a little chuckle when I was reading the comment section. But in essence, what they said is, if you're not really sure if your image has a strong subject, go ahead and activate the select subject for your masking. Select subject, because it uses the artificial intelligence to look for a subject and then select it and mask it. And the way they presented it is, because it's using artificial intelligence, there's a certain there's a certain preset that AI uses, a certain, format that it uses to identify a subject. And if it has a hard time finding a subject in your image, then that kind of gives you an indication that your subject matter isn't very strong in your image. Now, the funny thing was about the comment section is a lot of people said, oh, what's this? We're suddenly relying on artificial intelligence to tell us what our subject is. Which it is kind of funny. It's like if you don't know what your subject is, you shouldn't even be picking up a camera. The gist of it. But the way I look at it, a lot of people when they're starting out and exploring, beyond the basics of composition, and they try to create something unique. Sometimes it fails them, and they're not sure. The other side of it is I see a lot of photographers that are so invested in the moment and the action of taking a photograph that they point their camera at something and they take a photo and they're instantly in love with the photo, even though it's not a great photo, because they're in it for the moment. They're in it with the experience. All right. There's something that they saw that they liked, and so they grabbed it. But technically speaking, it really isn't a very strong subject. It may have a strong emotional connection to them, but on its own, without that experience, somebody else, a third person looking at that image isn't going to understand what it is that you took a picture of. All right, so being able to kind of use this tool in this unique way to just double check yourself, I thought it was kind of interesting. Obviously, it's not like you need it all the time, but if you're ever, have that little doubt in your mind, it's like, I don't know, I'm having a hard time really figuring out what the subject is. Go ahead and give it a try. See if, maybe it'll shed a little bit of insight into your composition. But anyway, if you want to look it up, it's F-stoppers on the internet, and it's their latest article. So I just wanted to share that with you. Anyway, what I would like to do today, let me switch over. Oops, wrong one. Here we go. I have my studio set up for a kind of like little product demonstration. I kind of set this up for today's lesson. And what I want to do is I want to create this kind of like mock studio shoot, but I'm going to walk through the whole process of how to use the tethering tool as kind of an aid. So if you've never used Lightroom tethered to a camera, hopefully you learn something new. Okay. All right. Actually, let me take a quick poll. How many of you have used Lightroom tethered?
I've used Capture One.
You use Capture One. Yeah, unfortunately.
Because I use Fujifilm and Lightroom, I don't believe accept Fujifilm.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, Capture One's better.
I like Capture One.
Capture One has a better tethering system than Lightroom. Lightroom, for many, many years, I've been, every time they send me a poll, hey, what do you think of Lightroom, blah, 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 blah. At the very end, they give you a little place where you can fill out, what kind of suggestions you would like to give. And I've always pushed for better tethering tools within Lightroom, simply because, I can use them in my work. And one of the things that I requested was live view, being able to, because I use Canon cameras, and the Canon camera software allows me to do live view tethered to the computer. And I'm like, I know it can be done. Many companies offer this through their proprietary software. Why can't Lightroom do it? And then finally, eventually they did, but it's so broken now. I can't get live view on my camera anymore. I don't know what the heck they did. And it's not just me, because I check out some of the forums, the Adobe forums, and there's a lot of people who are complaining that live view does not work with their cameras.
Right.
And I know it.
I cheat a little because I better will capture one, and I can see all the images in capture one, which I like.
Yep.
But I create a folder on the external drive, and then I open on one and open the folder. So simultaneously, I'm looking the image on one.
Yeah.
I normally use on one. It's very similar to Photoshop, but for some reason, I understand the system in on one very well.
Yeah.
And when I try to do exactly the same in Photoshop, I fall to pieces. Like, I just did it in on one.
Yeah.
For the life of me, I do layers in on one. I do.
Oh, really?
Yes. You can do layers in on one. You can do mask in on one. Even the same commands that you use in Photoshop, you use the same. The command that you showed me the other day in Photoshop,
yeah,
is exactly the same command in on one.
Huh. Yeah, I did notice that there are some, between different types of photo editing programs, they tend to use the same shortcut keys, which is a great idea because, it allows you to kind of work, across multiple programs without having to relearn new, keep track of, for this one it's Control M, for that one it's Shift plus, Z, which would be a nightmare. So yeah.
I noticed that the naming is a little bit different. Like in Photoshop, you use recipes. No.
Oh, Photoshop is actions.
Actions.
Yeah.
And Capture One is recipes.
Yeah.
And on one presets.
Yeah. And Lightroom, it's presets also. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, manufacturers want to set themselves apart from the competition. I think it's kind of silly, because as a creative, whether you're using it for design or photography or, illustration, you use multiple tools. So it's not like I'm just going to stick with, one product and that's it. I use multiple products, and I don't care who makes the product as long as I can get the job done. And unfortunately, manufacturers, they don't think that way. But anyway, what I want to do is I'm not going to get very heavily involved. Okay, so let me just start off. While the live view part of tethering into Lightroom really, really is hit and miss, all right, there is a way of setting up live view with Lightroom using a secondary program. So I know Nikon has its own proprietary software that you can download and shoot tethered, right? Canon has the EOS app that allows you to shoot tethered, okay? And I'm sure Sony and Fuji and all these others have their own programs as well. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the basics with Lightroom, and then at some point I'll explain where you can take it a little bit further by introducing one of these other programs. All right, I'm not going to get into linking a secondary program simply because different programs, whether it's for the Sony or Fuji or Nikon or Canon, they're all different, but the fundamentals are the same. So I'll just go over it very quickly. So anyway, what I have here is just a little product. All right, actually, let me go ahead and my next door neighbor has decided to him and their buddies are working on a beard moisturizing formulas, and they gave me a little sample, and what I did is I attached kind of like a fake label to it, just so we have something to photograph today. All right, but this is going to be our product that we're going to be photographing. Okay, and what I'm doing is I have here some little props. These are just little props that allow me to, they're little risers. I can put my product on here and it just makes it visually a little bit more interesting. So I have a couple of columns and I have these 2 discs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my product on here and we're gonna shoot it. Okay. We're going to keep it fairly simple. I have 2 lights set up. I have a Godox 8200 that has a red gel on it. That's going to be for my background. Okay. And I set up just a white scrim for my background. And then I have the Godox QT 400. 400. Here, that's going to be my key light. That's my main light. And I have it in a just a little 7-inch reflector with a honeycomb grid. That way we just kind of let the light fall on the product and no white light is hitting the background. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through my my setup process, the lighting process, as well as how I use Lightroom to tether everything in order to see how everything's coming together. Okay, so in order to make this stand up, what I've done is I've taken a little piece of white foam core, and I attached it to the back with a flat section here. And basically that's just going to help it from, not rolling off my table. Okay. So we're going to put that here. All right. And, ouch. All right. So I pretty much have everything. Oh, that's got to be weird. Disappear from one side and appear on the other side. All right. So I have it set up on the table. All right. And what I've done is I have a USB cable running from my computer to the camera. All right. It's a 15-foot cable. All right. You can buy, the tethered cable, but in my opinion, tethered cables is a little bit kind of too expensive. It's like $60 for a cable, that you can get for, $6. But anyways, it's 15 feet long. It's insulated. It's got, the signal. There's a name for this part, and I can't remember it, but it helps shield the cable from unnecessary signals. Now, what I've done is I've attached a little clip here that allows me to hook this part up to my camera as a strain relief. It's a little DIY thing. If anybody's interested in learning how I did it, I can go into greater details afterwards. But just keep in mind, I have a little DIY strain relief. So what happens is that when the cord's hanging, it's not pulling on the camera and creating some damage on the camera. Okay. So this is going to the computer. I just plug it into the side of the camera. I put my strain relief on, and that's pretty much it. All right, the camera is now ready to communicate. You want to make sure that the camera is on. All right, I usually turn that on first, and then we will come over to Lightroom. And we're going to launch the tethering. All right. So we go over to the upper corner. All right. Oh, let me get my annotation tools going here. Where is it? Hold on. There we go. Okay. All right. So right here, file. We're going to go tethered capture, start tethered capture. And when you click on that, it's going to bring up this dialog box. Okay. And the dialog box allows you to tell Lightroom a few things about how you want Lightroom to handle the images. Okay. Now, I've mentioned in the past how I like to set things up to a point where I really don't have to think about it. All right. But there's a couple of things that you can do here that will work with whatever workflow you want. Me personally, I kind of like the things where I set it and I forget about it. All right. The fewer things that I got to think about during my shoot, the less things that can go wrong. Okay. So what I do is the first thing is you have the session name, Okay. And what you can do is basically say, okay, well, I'm shooting this particular product, or I'm shooting headshots for this company. All right. You can label the session name with something that makes sense about that session. Okay. So Acme Corporation headshot. Just keep in mind that whatever you use as a session name is going to become actually, hold on, let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see this a little bit better. Let me just switch back to chat here. Where's my... Okay. Oh, hold on. Give me a second. I gotta launch the window. There we go. Give me 1 second. All right, share, windowed projection, share. All right, is that it? Okay. All right. And then desktop. Everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. So the first part is the session name. All right, the session name is going to become the label for the folder. Okay, and like I said, what I like to do is I like to keep things simple for myself. So what I've done is I've made the session name hashtag tethered. Okay. And the reason I do hashtag tethered is because the hashtag is going to float it above any folders that have an alphanumeric listing. All right. So that will, in essence, become my topmost folder in my catalog. All right. And on my system. Okay. And for me, I don't change it. All right. Because more often than not, I'm only working on one project at a time when I'm tethered. Okay. So once I'm done with my tether session, I can then move all those images into their respective folder depending on what I am working on. Okay. So if I'm working for a client, it may go into a subfolder for that particular client. If I'm working on something for myself, I might generate a new folder for that particular project. Okay. If I'm doing headshots, the same thing. I will create a subfolder under, the company name for the headshots. Okay. But for me, every time I launch the tether dialog, that's one thing I don't have to worry about having to create a folder with a new name. Okay. Especially if I go back and it says, oh man, what did I name that folder? Okay. I know when I'm done, I can just go to the tethered folder and take care of business from that point on. Okay. The next part is you can rename your files, or actually, I wouldn't even say rename. All right. Because the images are coming in straight off the camera. So we are going to apply a name. All right. And what I normally do is I will take it and I will say I want to give it a custom name. All right. And I want to append whatever file number comes off the camera. All right. Because the file on your image starts with, something like IMG_1234. All right. So it's going to take that 4-digit number and it's going to keep it. Okay. But I can append a custom name to the beginning of the file name. All right. And this one, I will usually create something in reference to what it is that I'm working on. All right. So for example, what we're doing today is just a little, example photo shoot. So I'm going to use the name test. All right. So I have the custom name test. All right. And you notice that it's going to give you a preview of what your file name is going to be. So it's going to be test and then dash and then the 4 digits that come off the camera. Okay. The next part is the location. Where on your computer are these files going to go? All right. Now, if you've been with me enough, you know that I advocate for having one singular folder where all your images go into. All right. So that way you know exactly where your photos reside. They're always going to be in that folder called My Photos. All right. Or whatever, name you decide to give it. In my case, I call it My Folder, My Photos. Okay. And in my photos, I have subfolders depending on what it is I'm working on. I have one for clients. I have one for the year 2022. So everything that I take in 2022 goes into that 2022 folder. Okay? In this case, it's going to generate a folder called #tethered and put it into the My Photos folder. All right. And because of the hashtag I mentioned, it floats everything above anything that has a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and A, B, C, D, E. All right. So it's the top folder is going to be my tethered folder. Okay. And actually, let me go ahead and bring this over here. Here is my photos folder. Okay. Underneath that, there it is. Tethered. Okay. Tethered. Okay. This is looking rather empty because I'm still in the process of transferring over stuff from my old computer. So this is probably the neatest it's going to ever look right now. All right. But there's my tethered folder. And you can see I have several projects already going on within my tethered folder. Right. And then once I'm done with these projects, I can then move them to wherever they're going to reside. Okay. But because I never rename my sessions, I know exactly where everything that I take during these tethered sessions, I know exactly where they're going to go. They're going to go into that tethered folder. Okay. All right. Below that is some information that you can attach, including what kind of metadata you want to use. All right. And this one, we're going to use our copyright information, obviously. And then if you need to apply any keywords, all right, this is where you would apply it. All right. Whether it's, like, for example, if I'm doing multiple products, all right, I might put the product number or product name in the tags just so I can sort them later. Okay. And then the last part is disable auto advance. All right. And I usually keep this checked off. And what this means is when you press the shutter on the camera, it's going to take a photo and immediately load it into Lightroom. And then it's going to show it to you. Okay. When I press the shutter again, it's going to repeat the process. And it's going to go from that photo that it was just showing you to the new one. So it's going to automatically advance every time you take a shutter press. All right. If for some reason you want to disable that, this is where you can do it. All right. Now, some of you may be asking, well, obviously, if I'm tethered, I want to see the next image. And for the most part, yes, that's true. But there are occasions where you may not want that. And one of those circumstances may be if you are working with models or if you're working with people and you have a display, a screen turned towards you. It can be kind of not annoying, but distracting, having the new picture pop up and then all of a sudden the person that is your subject is more concerned about what's happening on the screen than what's happening in front with the camera. So you can disable it. Okay. All right. Any questions about setting this up real quick? It's fairly easy, right? Okay. So we're going to hit OK, and it's going to detect the camera, all right? Because, again, first thing you want to do is you want to turn the camera on, all right? And you're going to get this control bar. And in the control bar, you see over on the left-hand side, it shows you what camera you are connected to. The nice thing is you can have multiple cameras. So, for example, Let's let's say you're doing food photography, all right? And you're doing this nice spread, and you want to be able to take different shots. One kind of handheld where you can kind of walk around the set and take various angles. And maybe you have another camera that's doing a top down. All right. And the top down, it's just kind of sitting there. You really can't mess with it because it's up top. All right. But you want to be able to occasionally just move things around and then just hit the shutter and take a photo. Okay. So you can have multiple cameras hooked up as long as you have, USB drives to be able to tether to. The only problem is you can only control one camera at a time, and you would have to come here and select which camera you want to work with. All right. So you may be, in the situation with like the food, you may be using your main camera for a lot of the handheld shots and maybe a secondary camera for the overhead. So every time you make changes, you just quickly switch over to the overhead shot, take a couple shots, switch back to your main camera, move some stuff around and work that way. All right. So that's always an option. Okay. Then we have my favorite, my live view button that does not work for me. It used to, it doesn't anymore, and it's very frustrating. But what would happen is I would click on the live view and a screen would pop up giving me a real world live view through my my camera and see everything that the camera sees. And the reason I loved this is because you can put it on live view, make the arrangements you need on your set, make it look, so you're moving things around, but you're keeping an eye on the screen so you can see exactly, it needs to move over a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. You can make these adjustments and get it looking right in camera using the live view. All right. But like I said, that's a pressure point for me. It doesn't work. And I wish Adobe would devote some time and effort into this particular part of their software. All right. It's a long time coming, but enough of my softbox. Okay. The next several parts are kind of self-explanatory. We have the shutter, my aperture, my ISO, okay, and my white balance. All right. Now, if you make a change on the camera, it will be reflected here. But you can also make the changes here, and it will update on the camera. Okay. So that's kind of nice because you can also do remote shooting with this in a way. Okay. The next part is you can do your develop settings. Develop settings. So any settings that you have available in your develop module, you can immediately apply them. All right. Lihia, this is for you. On1 has a much better version. All right. On1 allows you to make changes on the fly and the program remembers it. So if you say, oh, I need to, boost contrast a little bit, you can make that little contrast boost right in On1 and keep shooting, and every single image from that point on is going to remember that setting. Not Lightroom. Ugh. All right. Lightroom, if you need to make a change, you have to save it. Save it as a preset. All right. So one way you can do this is you can create a preset called tethered, obviously. And then if you need to make changes, you make whatever changes, you update the tethered preset, and it's going to remember it. All right. The only problem with that is, obviously, if you need to reset everything back, you have to manually reset everything back to 0, update the preset to reflect that reset, so that way the next time you launch your tethered project for something else, you're not going to have those old presets. So again, something I wish Adobe would address. I can only hope. All right, because frankly, while I like On One, I can't afford all these subscriptions and all these programs. All right. And then the last one here is, of course, our shutter button. Okay. And of course, it has a shortcut key, which is the F12 key on the keyboard. The F12 will fire your shutter remotely, or you can use your mouse, press this button. Okay. And then next to that, you can close. There's a little X, so you can close out of Tether Tools. And then there's the settings, which just basically brings up that initial dialog box that opened up at the beginning. So if you need to make a change on the fly during your session, you can do that without having to close it and then reopen it. You just come here to the little settings, little cogwheel here. Let me see. Little cogwheel, and make your settings. Okay. Now, what I normally do is I will move this down out of view. Okay. When it launches this right in the center. I just take it and I move it down so that it frees up my display area. All right. Any questions on setting up tethered? All right, pretty straightforward. It really is very simple. There's not much to the tethering aspect of Lightroom. All right. Again, my soapbox. I wish they would do something more. All right. So now let's go to the chat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my desktop here. All right.
Doc, I have one question.
Yeah.
On LiveView, if LiveView's not working, could I use like one of those 7-inch monitors that fits on top of the camera?
Yes, absolutely.
And that would work. So I could see what I'm shooting and still use. Okay. All right.
As far as I know, I don't think there's a conflict if you have both things plugged in. If I remember correctly, I have done that in the past. It's been a while. I didn't have issues, right? However, actually, since you brought it up, let me just explain very quickly how you can use third-party software. Okay, let me go back to the desktop. And let's see, my folders. Let me just close the navigator. Oh, I don't have it set up here. Okay. On my old system, what I did is I would launch my Canon EOS software. All right. I can't do it here because I don't have it set up with this new computer yet. All right. Otherwise, I'd actually do it so you can see the process. But you would launch whatever software comes with your camera, whether it's the EOS software, the Nikon software, Sony, Fuji, whatever it is. Whatever software allows you to do tethered capture with your camera. All right. Most of these softwares allows you to use live preview. All right. And what they do is, because it's independent of Lightroom, it doesn't recognize Lightroom at all. It just says, okay, here's the program. You want to shoot tethered. I can see your camera. And just like Lightroom, when you click the shutter, where do you want me to put that photo? Okay. So within your camera software, you would say, all right, I want you, whatever images come off the camera, I want you to put it into this specific folder, okay? And what I did is I created a folder called hashtag, actually, what did I call it?
I did test. Hashtag test. Tethered test.
Watch folder, that's what I did. I called it watch folder, okay? All right, because within Lightroom, all right, you can set up let's see if I can remember. It's been a while since I've done this. Library, photo, and let's see. You know, I knew somebody was going to ask me. I knew I was going to talk about this, but did I look it up? Damn, I can't remember. All right, there's photo. Oops, I think it's in photos. There's a way of setting up a watch folder, all right? And I can't remember how to do it. All right, I'm gonna have to look it up. I know there's a way, I just can't remember. Import, oh, there we go. Auto import. All right, auto import settings. All right, and it brings up a dialog box. All right, and it's going to ask you, here it is, watched folder. Okay. So of course, because I named my folder watched folder, I know exactly what folder it's going to go in. All right. And I just choose, you know, say where it is that that it's going to be. Oh, come on. There we go. All right. So I could do new folder. Watched folder. Okay, so I did it a little separate with underscores. All right, select folder. All right, watched folder. All right, and let's see, destination. The destination. Obviously, it's going to be your My Photos. All right, I'm going to keep it to the watch folder. All right. Auto imported photos. Okay. So what this means is Lightroom is going to keep checking this folder. Whenever it recognizes a new file has been added into the folder, it's going to automatically import it into the library. Okay. And then of course the rest of it is the same. You can give the files coming in a file name. You can do the develop settings. You can do the metadata, keywords, the whole 9 yards. Okay. It's a bit of a long way. It's a little bit slower, all right, because obviously what's happening is the EOS software is doing its thing, all right, and then when it brings the image in, Lightroom now has to get triggered, And Lightroom then has to go through the process of importing it, all right, behind the scenes before you can see it. So the process between camera and screen is a lot longer, all right? It's frustrating. But if you want to use live view, all right, that's one way to do it, all right, until Adobe gets on the ball, okay? So it's not like you can't with Lightroom, all right? Or if you want to spring for better software, you go like Lehia and get on one. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question as well, all right? But yes, you can also hook up a small little monitor onto your camera, okay? All right. Whew. All right, so now we are tethered, all right? Lightroom is now waiting on me. So let's go over to the studio. Okay. So now just we'll take a little side trip here and do a little bit of studio shooting, all right? So what I'm doing is I'm going to be using Flash. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get a baseline. I want to make sure that my settings is negating any ambient light that I may have in the room. Okay, so actually, hold on a second. Let me turn my screen towards me so I can see it. All right. Okay, so my strobes are off at this point, right? My trigger is also off. So the only thing that I have is the ambient lights for the room, and the camera is on. So as soon as I press the shutter, okay, I also have a handheld shutter release cord. If you're doing any kind of product work and you have your camera, well, in my case I have it on a camera stand, but if you have it on a tripod, I suggest getting a fairly inexpensive shutter release cord. That way you're not actually touching the camera to do your shutter, all right? Because depending on how steady your system is, just pressing the shutter with the button can cause a little bit of shake. So I just negate that and I just use the shutter release, okay? All right, and you can see that, let me come over here. Where am I? All right, you can see that Lightroom has already imported the image. Okay, so let me just go to, oops. All right, expand it to take up the full screen, and the thing you notice that it's a completely black screen. Okay, this is telling me that my settings right now, which are 1/60 of a second at f11 ISO 100, is completely killing any ambient light. All right, which is what I want, because I don't want any ambient light influencing my shoot. I want to use strictly my strobes. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to turn on my background light. Okay, and the reason I'm going to start with the background is because I have colored gels on my background light, so I want to turn my background red. I have red gel, so I want to turn my background red. So I want to get the exposure for my background set first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on my flash. Okay, and I'm going to turn on my trigger. Okay, and actually my camera is very low, so all right. All right, So the way I have this set up is I have my background on one channel, channel A, and then I have my main light on channel C. All right. You might say, well, where's channel B? Well, channel B is on my other lights, which are sitting off over there, not being used. I just didn't want to go switching everything around. So channel A for my background, channel C for my main light. All right. So I turned on my backlight. I have channel A, and we can do a couple of things. Okay. I can take a meter reading and get my light in the background to read F11, okay, which is what my camera is set to, okay. But I know from experience that F11 is going to be a little bit too bright for a colored gel, all right. I want to keep the red color, I want to keep it saturated, so I know that I need to drop my exposure down a little bit more. So normally I tell people, if you're not sure, set your flash to about 1/4 power, take a test shot and take it from there, all right. But like I said, I know that what I want to do is I want to start a little bit underexposed, so I'm going to start my exposure at 1/8 power. All right, 1/8, which, all right, set, which is one stop under 1/4 power, all right? And I'm just gonna go ahead and take a test shot, okay? And we come over and we see, ooh, that looks pretty darn good, okay? All right. It's very bright, very vibrant red, okay? It might be a little bit too bright, okay? I'm not sure yet, okay? Once I kick in the main light, we'll be able to balance it. But right now, I'm thinking that might be a little bit too bright, too intense. We'll see, okay? As a matter of fact, if you're not sure, like in my case, what I might do is I might bring it down from 1/8 to 1/16 and take another test shot. Okay. All right, and then I can just kind of toggle.
That's pretty.
What's that?
That's pretty.
Oh, let's go. That's the previous one. That's, yeah. See, that's very, very hot looking. That's a lot better. Okay, that's a lot better. All right. Now, you'll also see that right in the little corners of the tin, you can see some of that, my little stand that I put behind there. That's okay. I can edit it out with Photoshop. I just need to hold it so it doesn't roll off my table. Okay? All right. So now, because everything is in silhouette, all right, I can take advantage of that particular view and look at my composition just as a matter of forms, okay? So we have the two columns in the back. You can see them right here, the two columns right there, all right? And then we have the circular base, okay, that kind of steps, all right? So because I'm shooting tethered, looking at it on a large screen, I can look at my screen and say, okay, does it need to move anywhere? All right. And I can see that I might want to bring the base shifted to the left a little bit, but shift the smaller round base to the right, just a nudge, okay? And this is where live view would be awesome, because you can come to your set and look at your live view and be able to make those minor adjustments, but unfortunately we can't. So I can look at my reference that I just shot, and I can say, okay, my base has to go to the left a little bit, okay? But the platform above it needs to go to the right just a smidge, okay? And keep in mind, when you're shooting very, very tightly like this, minute little movements is all you need, okay? Otherwise, you know, you're going to be flying off the screen, all right? So, all right, so I'm over by the computer. Now, the nice thing is, all right, because everything is set up, all right, I have the camera on a stand. I have my tabletop set up. The light, the background light is on. Nothing's moving. Everything is on stands. Everything is on a table. Nothing's moving. So I don't even need to touch the camera. I can come to the computer. I press the F12 and it triggers the camera, loads it up. All right, and I'm looking at it. The base is perfect. I got nice distribution left and right, that a little bit, but the product is a little bit off center, okay? So I come back, make my little minor adjustment, okay? The other thing that I noticed is the side edge of this column and the side edge of this column, all right? This one's pretty much hidden. I'm picking up a little bit of the side edge, all right? I'd rather not. I want to see if I can get rid of it. So the way we do that is we just turn it so that that edge kind of tucks behind, all right? And again, tiny little movements is all you need, okay? All right. So we made those adjustments. I can come back to the computer. I can hit F12. And there it is. All right. That's looking really, really good. Okay. Okay, so I'm very happy with the red color in the background. I'm happy with the distribution of all the items. Now it's time to put on my key light, okay? So what I'm gonna do is, let me turn this on, all right? What I can do is from my remote trigger, I can take my backlight, which is my A light, and I can disable it temporarily, all right? The reason I want to disable the backlight is because I want to see what my key light is doing, all right? All right, so right now it's set at quarter power, all right? And again, I'm not sure if that's going to be an appropriate power. I could take a light meter and meter for my camera settings, which is F11, all right? But not everybody has this, so I'm going to show you how to do it without. All right, the reason I normally start off with a quarter power, I tell people go at quarter power, take a test shot, all right? Because from the quarter power, you have leeway. You can go up, all right? You can increase your power. You can go, you know, and there are 3/4 stops adjustments on some. You even have tenths of a stop adjustments, all right? So you can go half to a full power, or if you need to, you can reduce it. You can go to 1/8, 16, 32nd, and so on, okay? If you were to max out at full power, well, you can't add more light from that one light. You can only take away light, so, all right? All right, so I have it at quarter power. I'm just, yeah? Question? No? Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and take let me get my focus first. That would help, right? There we go. Focus on the camera, all right, or on the subject, and I take a shot. Okay. And ooh, yeah, well, that's way too hot, way too hot. All right, and my tin's turned a little bit crooked. Okay, I gotta angle it a little bit towards the camera. I'm seeing too much of the right-hand side and not enough of the left. Okay, and you can see that it's a black and white label, but can you see how washed out the black is on that label? All right, we need to bring the exposure down. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make my adjustment. I'm gonna shift this. Hopefully that's enough. And now I can make an educated guess as to how much I need to reduce my power. All right, so what I can do is I can go at quarter power. I can go to 1/8, right? Which is 1 stop. But I'm judging by how hot that is. I think, I might want to go 2 stops. Okay. So again, right now it's an educated guess. So I'm going to go from 1/4 to 1/8 to 1/16, and I'm going to set that. Take my shot. Boom. All right, and that is looking pretty darn good. Okay. Now, like I said, my key light is very controlled right now. It's shooting through a very tight grid, and so there's not a lot of spill over everything. That's why you're seeing it hitting just pretty much just the product, and it's a little bit of a wash on the columns in the back. Okay. All right. So I might say, okay, well, do I want more light on the columns, or am I happy with the way it is? Actually, you know what? I need to shift this because it's looking. The label was looking a little bit, a little crooked. All right. Yeah, still. All right. So now it becomes a matter of your artistic decisions. Okay. Where do you want to place the light? Okay. Do you want to include more of the props, less of the props, whatever, all right? The way I kind of envisioned it is very centralized lighting on the product, all right? A nice bright background with the columns not quite in silhouette. I do want, some light, okay? So now, this looks pretty darn good. Okay, but what we want to do is we want to see, okay, once I put on my backlight, the one with the red gel, how are the two going to play together? Okay, so now what I can do is I've already set the exposure for my background light, so I just go here to my remote control, I put that on, it's at a 16th power. All right, actually they're both at a 16th power, okay? Take my trigger, take a shot, and this is what it looks like in combination, okay? And of course,
I love the combination of the gray color of the columns with the red background.
What was that, Leah?
I love the combination of the
Yeah.
gray columns with the red at
Mhm.
the back
Okay.
and the white of the subject. So
Yeah.
it looks very nice.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, I'm just wondering if I should go a little bit brighter on those columns. All right. So now we have to start thinking in terms of the photographer here, all right? Because we can see exactly, what the camera sees displayed large because we're tethered, all right? We can really nitpick our images, all right? Rather than, if you're shooting handheld, you're relying on that small little screen on the back of your camera, all right? If you needed to make minor adjustments based on what you saw from the back of your camera, you would never get it, all right? So for example, when I straightened out my label, I'm now seeing that the right-hand side of the tin is showing a little bit more than the left. So I gotta nudge it just a tiny, tiny little bit, okay? And then the other thing is, all right, do we want to, here, let me switch over to my desktop here, okay? Do we want to add any light to the front part of that lower platform, all right? Because right now it's in a lot of shadow. Remember, I have the light directly above it, all right? So it's shining down, it's hitting the tin, because the tin's not quite straight up and down. It's got a little bit of a backward tilt. You can see a little bit of the lower part of the tin, all right? So the tin, which is what I want, the tin is the brightest part of this whole composition, okay? Now, the other thing you have to take into consideration is how much can you do in camera versus what you can do in post-processing. So for example, what I'd like to see is more of a vignette, all right? Now, I can spend a couple of hours trying to get my light looking proper so that it's a little bit tighter to my product, or I can say, you know what? It is super, super easy with a simple one click to add a vignette in post. So what makes better sense? Spending 2 hours trying to get it right in camera or doing it in post? Well, for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to do it in camera. No, just kidding. I'm going to do it in post. All right. Time is money. Okay. All right. So I'm wondering if I should put in a little bit more light onto the background. All right. So right now the light is not quite straight up and down. There is a little bit of an angle. All right. But I can always take that and tilt a little bit more back, all right? But what I have to be concerned with is I don't want to tilt so far back that the light from my main light, and I have my monolight on, all right? I don't want the light from my main light hitting that background. Okay, because I want that red, okay? All right, so I can do a couple of things. I can angle it so that it hits the columns a little bit more, okay? And if it casts too much light in the back, I might even bring the light closer, all right? Because I'm photographing very, very tightly here, all right? My crop from the camera is literally right here, all right? So in reality, I can take this light and I can bring it down till it's just out of camera view, all right? So I have a lot of maneuverability with my light setup. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is, just to see what it does, I'm going to angle it so that it's hitting the columns a little bit more. All right, and you know what? We'll see what it does. All right. Because I angled it backwards, I know that the lower platform is probably going to get darker. All right. So I might need to bring the whole setup forward a little bit more. So F12 on my keyboard. Oh. And yeah, see? So I now have more light going on the back, but I lost all my light in the front. Okay. The reason being, again, is I'm using a grid. Okay. But also, if you notice the lower part, the lowest part, it's starting to wash out. We're getting a lot of bleed from the main light. So I'm not liking that. Okay. So here, let me switch back here. I gotta get used to switching cameras here. All right. So because I angled it back, all right, I'm getting a little bit of spill on my background. Okay. So I can do a couple of things. I can lower it down, right, which I'm gonna do. Okay. Now, when I lower it down, we have to take into consideration what it's going to do to our light. Okay? The inverse square law comes into effect. When we get closer to our subject, the intensity of the light is going to get stronger. So we may need to dial down the power on our flash. Okay? And I might want to bring it forward, all right? Not tilt it down, but move the whole thing forward, okay? In order to avoid getting any spill in the back, all right? So I've lowered it and I brought it forward, okay? So now, because I made all these changes, I didn't make any changes to the composition in camera. I made changes to the lighting. All right, so now I gotta come over and we have to take an exposure, okay, and see what it did. All right, there we go. Well, we have more light on the front, but our pillars now went back into gray. All right, because again, I lowered the light and I brought it forward, okay? And I think I might raise it back up. The exposure isn't that bad, actually. I don't think I dropped it down enough to really make a big difference, all right? But if we were to compare the two, if you look at the label, here, let me put them side by side. If you look at, oh, not that one. This one, there we go. If you look at the label, you can see that the latest shot, the second shot, the one on the right, the black is a little bit washed out. All right, so dropping the light down gave us probably about 2/3 of a stop of light. Okay, so I'm liking the way it looks on the little platform. I'm not quite liking what it did to the columns, all right? And you can see that it's a little lopsided. The column on the right is a little darker than the column on the left, okay? So again, this is the nice thing about being able to shoot tethered is we can come in and we can make our adjustments, okay? And let me see, I'm going to lower this down. No, actually, you know, I'm going to raise it back up because I want to get more light on those columns. On the, yeah. Okay. Everything looks centered. All right. Take my remote, take another shot. And I just knocked the table with my leg, didn't I? Okay. Yeah, okay, that's looking a lot better. It still needs to shift over. All right, this one is very bright. This one's a little bit, all right. Okay, and take another shot. All right, there we go. Come on. There we go. Yeah, see? I'm liking that. That looks a lot better, okay? Okay, so the only thing is I lost some of the light on the very, very front, okay? I'm not too worried about that, okay? I might just angle it down a little bit, but what I can do is I can take a white, where's my whiteboard? I can take a whiteboard here and see if I can kick, use this as a reflector to kick some light back up onto the front. All right, we'll see how that looks. Take another exposure. I tripped over my cord. Thank God for breakaway cables. All right. All right. Is there a difference? Nah, not much of a difference. Okay. But you know what? I don't really mind it. I don't mind it. All right. I think I'd probably get a little bit more light in the front. All right. But you can see the value of shooting tethered, all right, in order to make these kinds of decisions on the fly. The nice thing also is, if you're working in collaboration with other people, all right, or if you have a client that likes to see things, they could very easily just look over your shoulder onto the screen rather than be on top of you looking at that 3-inch screen on the back of the camera. Okay, so any questions about shooting tethered? No? Okay. I'm going to make one adjustment and then I'm going to talk about using the presets here. All right, so I'm just going to bring this forward. Take one last final shot. I don't want to drag this on forever. See if I get a little light on the front. There we go. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So now what I can do is I have a little light on the front. I lost a little light on the back ones, on the columns in the back. Come on, catch up. There we go. But I can take the previous exposure, okay? I can take that previous exposure and in Photoshop, I can combine the two, okay? So that's the other option, all right? So it's give and take, okay? All right. You can see that I did knock the table. You can see the let me switch over here. If we look at the space here in comparison to the space there, see how it's smaller here? That was my bad. I bumped the table on my way through. So anyway. All right, so how to work with presets. All right, so now within here, all right, we have the ability to add a develop setting, okay? And right now it's just set on natural, all right? You can pick whatever it is that you want. Any preset, develop preset that is loaded on your system you can use, okay? But if you're interested in being able to kind of work on the fly, one way to do it is you go into the develop module, all right? And you say, okay, I'm going to create a preset, all right? And so we go over to our presets. We're going to add, create preset, okay? And in this case, I'm going to check none, okay? Oh, actually, here, let me reset everything first. That's reset. All right, so all the way over on the in my basics panel, you can see everything is zeroed out. Okay, so I just hit the reset. All right, I'm going to come over to my presets. I'm going to hit that little plus symbol, and I'm going to create preset. All right, and again, just to keep everything uniform, I'm going to call this one tethered. Tethered, okay? And I want to make sure that I check none. All right, check none. Okay, and I am going to create. All right, so now as I am shooting, if I say, you know what, that red is looking a little intense, but I don't want to spend, you know, half an hour adjusting that light till it gets just perfect, all right? Because I know that within a couple of sliders, I can pretty much take care of that right within Lightroom. So I can go over to my hue, saturation, and luminance, okay? And let's say the saturation. I can take the saturation of that red. Actually, we'll keep the saturation. Let's go to luminance and bring the luminance down. Okay, there we go. That's looking a little bit better. All right. So you can say, okay, that's looking like a very rich Christmas red. Okay. And you can make whatever changes. All right. So you can say, okay, shadows. Maybe I want to bring my shadows down a little bit. Maybe I want to bring my black point down, maybe even my white highlight, okay? All right, because the product isn't changing, the set's not changing, all right? The only thing that's changing are the little tweaks that I make, you know, on the set, all right? I can now say, all right, my, where did I put it? User, where's my users? I should have checked where I sent user presets. Cancel. Okay. Come on. Why am I not seeing my user presets? Huh. Found something new. I can't find my user presets. Where are my users?
What happens if you click on collapse all in that one?
Hold on. Create. See, there's my user presets. Where is, okay. That's weird.
That's weird.
Am I not seeing it? Right? Grain, curve, defaults. Oh, this is very, very strange. All right. Create preset. New group. New group. Tethered. All right. Let's see if hashtag tethered. Create. Oh, wow. I found a glitch. I found a glitch.
Where did it go?
I'm not seeing them. That's very strange.
Oh.
That is strange. Wow. All right. I don't know what to tell you guys. This is a new one.
Thank you, Adobe.
Yeah, I know, really. Cancel. All right. You know what? I'm going to have to figure this out afterwards. I'm not going to spend time here. But usually, you create a preset, you put it into a folder, and it shows up on your presets.
It's supposed to be right here next to portrait, so
Yeah. It's
check on history.
yeah, no, that's just gonna give me my develop history. That's bizarre. Okay. All right, let me go to library. Come back. No. No. That is strange. Oh, you know what else I just noticed? Create presets. It's not auto-populating any of these other ones.
Create a new group.
Wow. Okay.
In on one to create a preset, you put it on either develop or your favorites, or you create a new group.
Yeah, but it's not showing any of the groups. It's not showing the default group. It's not showing the portraits. It's not showing any of these.
Oh.
All right. So okay. Well, found a glitch. Found a glitch.
Well, that's homework for next week.
Yeah. I got a funny feeling that, if I shut down and restart, it'll probably populate it. All right. But anyway, so the way it would work is in your dialog box. All right. Oh, now it's not letting me access that. I wonder. If because I was tethered, no, I shouldn't, because I've done it before. All right, something's wacky here. Yeah, I can't even access my tethered tools anymore. All right, let me shut down. Yes, and let me relaunch it. Something got hung up. Something got hung up. Look how fast that launches with the new computer. Woo! Gotta love it. All right, develop. Do we have it? No, still don't got it. Okay, so let's go library, file, tethered, start tether capture. Okay. All right. So normally the way it would work is you would pick the one from your list. Okay. Let's say we got natural. Let's say high contrast and detail. Okay. All right. So that's now, and, you know, in my case, I would pick the one that I called tethered preset or tethered capture, whatever makes sense. Okay. So I make the adjustments. I can now go back to the develop module, go to that preset, all right, make whatever changes you need to make. And then when you come over to, what was it? High contrast color, all right, you go high contrast and detail. What I would do is I would right click on it. All right. Oh, see, it's not even letting me do that. You should be able to update with the current settings. And for some reason, yeah, something's wrong here. Something's definitely wrong. You know, I always find something new. If it's not one thing, it's another with me.
Hey, Doc.
Oh, man, yeah.
At least we don't have a buffering problem anymore.
True.
Can I ask a question? I prefer that it has to do with something you said, but
Yeah.
it's not directly involved with the lecture. Can I ask now?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to wait?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You said for Flash, start out at 1.8 and use manual. Why would you use manual instead of using TTL and then making your adjustment of -1, +1, or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why would you use manual instead of TTL?
One, when I put the flash at a quarter power, I know it will be a quarter power no matter what. Okay. So now, all right, if you remember, the first thing I did, let me take this off. The first thing I did was I took a shot of the setup with no flash. All right. The reason for that is I wanted to make sure that whatever ambient light, and you can see I have lights on. All right. But that first shot, my frame was black. All right. Because what I did is I made the lights in here are not strong enough for me to be able to create a properly exposed image with those settings on the camera. Okay. So now I'm using the flash to illuminate my subject. All right. So in this case, we figured out that 1/16 power was perfect. Okay. So I put it on 1/16 power and I can shoot the rest of the day and I know my exposure is always going to be the same. Okay. If I put it on TTL, all right, and let's say, well, my studio has no windows, okay? But let's say you started shooting at 4 o'clock, all right, and you have windows, okay? And suddenly it's now 6 o'clock, and the light that's coming in through the windows has gone down. All right, the ambient light in the room is now darker. Okay, TTL is probably going to adjust for that light difference. Okay, so now all of a sudden, when I was in manual, I had consistent power. When I'm in TTL, it's going to fluctuate based on how the flash thinks it should light the scene. Okay, so I basically removed that out of the equation. Okay, so now, where can you use TTL more effectively? All right, here it is. I am in a controlled situation. I want complete control 100% of the time. Okay, because I'm in a studio where I can control my complete environment. I don't need TTL. All right, but let's say I was shooting a model outdoors. All right, and the light from the sun is kind of like moving in and out. All right, the sunlight, because clouds, clouds are coming in, and the ambient light would drop down a little bit, then it'd come out from behind the clouds, and the light would get bright again. So I have no control over that situation. All right. So what I can do is I can set my camera, the flash power on manual. All right. And I will know that the light on my subject is going to be consistent. Okay. But the background light is going to start moving up and down. All right. So now I can say, well, let me compensate for that background light. All right. And I want to put my ambient meter, all right, from the camera, to register, for that change in the background. All right. So I might put it on auto ISO. All right. So now if the background light starts getting a little bit darker, I know the camera is going to brighten it up, appropriately. Okay. So now because I have that movement going on in my background, I want that same movement to be reflected with my flash. Okay. So I might put the flash into TTL so that as the ambient light changes and my settings change a little bit, at least it'll be kind of somewhat consistent with my shots. Obviously, there's going to be some fluctuation because it's not a perfect system, but that's where TTL might have its benefit. All right. Me personally, I like complete control. So there's very, very few times where I will put it on TTL. All right. When I shoot events, I use TTL. All right. Simply because sometimes I'm closer to my subject, sometimes a little bit further away from my subject. All right. So because I'm kind of like thinking about other things, watching what's going on in the room, I don't want to be bothered with what the flash is doing. All right. So I'm going to let the flash kind of handle its own thing. Okay. But what I find myself doing when I'm shooting TTL is I'm always checking that screen on the back of the camera, make sure that the flash is behaving the way it should. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. But me in a studio situation, no, I want 100% control.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions about shooting tethered with Lightroom? Like I said, it's not the greatest solution. But you know what? If you have it and you don't want to be bothered with getting secondary programs or buying something a little bit more expensive, this just may be the solution that you need. Okay. Let me tell you, when I do headshots, I bring my laptop with me, which has Lightroom. And I'll shoot tethered into Lightroom, and then every client that I photograph, I'll shoot a series. Okay, I says pick the one that you like because that's the one I'm going to edit. So they get to see live all your images. All right, right there on the laptop rather than showing them on the back of the camera, you know. So, and because I'm shooting straight into Lightroom, I have access to the flags, the colors, the stars, all right, all the rating systems. So as soon as they pick one, I'll mark it with a flag. All right, so now I know which ones, they like, and those are the ones I'm going to edit. Okay?
I love the tip that you recommended and started with a quarter power. That's a great advice.
Yeah,
Pearls that you, because normally maybe you do it, but you don't think about it.
Right.
Normally it's kind of the 8 power, but I normally have to tweak it. And
Well,
I measure a lot. I use the light meter.
Yeah. I use a light meter, all right.
Yeah.
Quarter power is it's an easy number to remember, all right? But once you start, like, for example, this is only a 200 watt light. Actually, it's a little less than 200 watt. This is a 400 watt light, okay? So this one, I can start at a quarter power, all right, and be very comfortable with it. But the big one, I can probably put that at 1/8 power, okay, and be very comparable to the little one, all right, just because this is more powerful, all right. So once you start understanding your lights, you can say, okay, well, this one, if I'm not using a meter, all right, I'll set this one at quarter, I'll set this one at 1/8, and then I'll move it from there,
Right.
But I also know that I'm going to start off, in this situation, usually at f11 with my camera. Okay. So I know what the parameters are to start. All right. And that usually gets me very, very close. So that from a few steps from there, I've nailed it. All right. So in a studio by yourself, who cares? Who cares? But if you're on location and you have eyes on you, all right, and all of a sudden you start getting that nervousness, I gotta, look professional. You don't want to look like you're second guessing. All right. So if I start off quarter power, 1/8 power, I know roughly what my distances are, all right? I hit the shutter, the first image that comes up, people are going to go, oh, wow. Oh, you do know what you're doing, So it just kind of puts, whoever's watching you a little bit more at ease, okay?
Yeah.
But if you're in a studio by yourself, who cares? There's nobody there to judge you. You can, make all the mistakes that you want. Okay. Personally, I use a light meter. All right, because I'll set my lights to the light meter, and then from there I just make my minor adjustments. Because it's easier. It's easier for me. But not everybody has a light meter and not everybody knows how to use a light meter. All right. So that's when I tell people start quarter power, adjust from there. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, guys. Again, don't forget, coming up, for you Connecticut people, for those of you vacationing in Florida, or those of you in that, warm part of the country,
It just so happens that's where I am right now. That's it. And I'll be back.
For the sleepy people, there's a West Palm Beach.
West Palm Beach. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a place to live. That's all.
Yeah.
Just another place to live.
Well, from what I understand, the west coast of Florida is a lot better than the east coast of Florida.
Absolutely. I prefer the
Absolutely,
West
yeah.
Coast.
Yeah.
100%.
Why do you guys say that?
The
I love. You see the background of my photo? That's the
Okay.
West Coast.
yeah.
That's sunset. Sunset's alone.
The
I've been to Naples, Florida. I saw it a little bit like that. The beauty about Naples, Florida, Christmas week, is it doesn't get dark until like 5:25, 5:35.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you're also not getting all those storms coming off the Atlantic. You know, you have a good chunk of real estate to buffer you. You know,
We got storms.
you get them from the Gulf, but you don't get those big heavy ones that are coming off the you know, from the Atlantic. You know, yeah, you do get storms, but you know, I also hear it's more humid on the East Coast.
Right now it is very, very, very bad.
Yeah.
Very bad. Very high.
I like living in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So do I. So my wife.
Or as Henny Youngman used to say, take my wife, please.
Take my wife. Yeah. All right, guys. Again, studio lighting demo Thursday, April 21st. I'm pretty much going to be doing what you saw here today, except let me switch back. Oh, nope, wrong one. All right, we'll be using the AD200 with a model. All right, so I'm going to show you with this modifier in an umbrella and in a softbox how to photograph you know, a person for a portrait or a headshot using a single light. All right. And so if you are not familiar with how to use a strobe, all right, or, you know, a flash, sign up. I'll be walking through, you know, trying to demystify using flash. Okay. So, and then that weekend, which is only a couple days after, I'll be down at the Milford Green. If you are in town, please join us. It's a lot of fun. I got the photo hunt challenge game, which I just reformatted based on all the suggestions from the last times that I ran it. So next time I print it, it's going to be the actual game. All right. I still got to talk to a lawyer, but, you know, about, you know, trademarks, copyright, and all that, you know, proprietary stuff. All right. And then I'm going to start marketing it. So, you know, Lihia, if you want to take it to your group, you know, you'll be able to. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm probably gonna send Don a deck and have him give me his opinion on it. So
Yeah, it would be awesome.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anyway,
I get it.
anyway, thank you all for joining me for another session of Learning Photography with Duck. I appreciate you guys being here with me. If you have any questions about anything we did tonight, feel free, just drop me a note, either Facebook Messenger, email, you can give me a phone call, all right? I'm very easy to get a hold of, okay?
Next Monday?
Next Monday, Photoshop,
Very good.
okay?
Nice.
And I haven't quite figured out what I want to do for that. So
That's fine. It's always interesting.
awesome. Awesome. Okay, guys, be safe.
So,
Have a good one.
good night, everybody.
Good, good night. Let me stop sharing. There we go.
See, now you can see me.
Now, yeah. And you're not a silhouette. Yep.
I'm not.
See, that's what happens when the light goes down. All right, Lehia. Thank you, Alan. Have a good night. Oh, stop recording.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.